What's going on, guys? Magdallan here with another farm strategy summary and review. Today we're going to talk about Harbinger, Strongbox, Crimson Temple. Voice is a little scratchy, throat's a little sore, but we're going to push forward here. I will talk about the Atmos tree. I will show you how I set everything up. I'll talk about the different levels of investment that I did and some of the returns that I got. And then I will share my scores for this strategy. So let's jump right into the Atmos tree. As always, I don't make the claim this is perfectly optimized. This is just the way that I set things up. You could, of course, change it up to your preferred playstyle. We're going to start here with Strongbox nodes. Come on up through the middle and grab these shrine ones here. Map nodes here. Harbinger here. Come up this way and grab Harbinger here. Singular focus. And we're going to come and grab these map nodes. Strongbox nodes here. Come on down and finish out the map nodes. Come up through this way. I have red allocated now, but for most of the higher investment versions of this, I was using blue altars, so you should probably switch that up if you are trying to maximize your quant. We're going to come through the top hat here and grab this one area of Delirium so that when we kill the bosses, we get a +1 to our reward tiles. And then we're going to come all the way around the top hat and back down. Up in the middle here, we're going to finish out our shrines. Harbinger nodes here. A little bit of rarity and quant. Extra nodes here for some extra quant. And then finally, all of these Strongbox nodes. And this is essentially the tree that I used for all the different versions of this, with, of course, the exception being that I switched from red to blue altars when I was trying to really max things out and go for the Enraged Strongbox Sextant and all of that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about how I set everything up. So in terms of setting everything up, I chiseled the maps and rolled them all up rare with as much pack size and quant as possible, and then I threw one deli orb on each map, preferring skittering or currency or divination card depending on how much of them I had on hand, and then eventually I ended up just throwing whatever orbs I had left in the bank onto them. And so if you have to buy orbs yourself, you'll have to factor that into your startup cost. For scarabs, I was running Gilded Harbinger, which I bought for 1 div to 35, and then Gilded Ambush at 1 div to 25, and then Gilded Divination at about 1 div to 15. And then I also threw in Rusted Cartography, which were super cheap. I think I got more than 100 of them for a div, so that was no problem. And then for Sextants, I was running Corrupted Strongbox, which I bought in bulk for 10 to 15 C apiece. And then Enraged Strongbox at about 200 C each. And then Harbinger at 50 C each. And then on the map device, I threw Ambush on there. I chose not to run the 8 mod Corrupted Rare map Sextant. It just didn't seem like I was dropping enough maps that I was going to really make a whole lot of profit on that. Maybe I was going to break even, but then I'd have to sell all the maps. Maybe I'm wrong there, so by all means, feel free to throw that into your strategy if you want to do that. But for my purposes, it didn't seem like it was going to be a huge boon, and so I just went ahead and skipped it. Now, in terms of what I was able to pull out of these maps, I think I did about 100 maps, maybe a little bit more. And I barely broke even. And I don't think I would have broken even if I hadn't gotten pretty lucky with both Harbinger and dropping a bunch of memories that sold for 1 to 2 div apiece. I think I got 3 or 4 div worth of fracturing shards throughout the process. And so that really did take the edge off. And so I'm pretty confident that the Harbinger was a good addition to the strategy. I know a lot of other people who have made videos on this aren't including Harbinger in the Strongbox strat, but I feel like it made sense, and it did seem to definitely increase the returns by having the Sextant on there, and so I stand by the Harbinger. I enjoy it. I think it's a good mechanic, and it has typically paid off pretty well for me in the last few leagues. And then I did have a couple Strongboxes drop 1 div, and I think I had 1 Strongbox drop 2 div, which was pretty nice, but generally I didn't feel like the returns out of them were super huge. I dropped 2 or 3 7 years bad luck, and I think 3 or 4 enlightened. And other than that, though, there just wasn't a whole lot coming out of those things. I got a bunch of scarabs, obviously, but I don't really bulk sell my scarabs. I tend to use them, and so maybe there was a couple div there as well that I'm not including here, but generally speaking, I didn't get the apothecary drop, and so the profit really wasn't there. It was a lot of time investment, a lot of hassle with the maps, and having to run them twice because you have to clear everything and then go back through once you've clicked the altars and do all the strong boxes. And so really, without the additional profit from the apothecary, this was not a very enjoyable experience. But let's jump over to the card and I will talk about my scores. For fun, I'm going to give this a 5. It just was not a very good time. There was a lot of hassle in terms of having to clear the entire map and then go back through and deal with the strong boxes, and you're really dependent on the altars to get the quant going before anything good really drops out of the boxes, and everything is gray because you've got delirium going on, and I just wasn't into it. It wasn't fun, and I'm going to give it a 6 for repeatability. Obviously, you can front load buying up all your stuff and roll up a ton of maps, which is what I did. And so, yeah, it is repeatable in that sense, but you don't really want to repeat it, or at least I didn't want to repeat it, other than for the purpose of making this video and doing the experiment. So it gets 6 there. For scalability, I'm going to give it a 9. You could go way further than I did, obviously. You could go all the way up to Winged Scarabs and, you know, throwing all the sextants on there, the 8-mod corrupted maps, all of that stuff. You can go really far. You can get into a group. You can take this as far as you want to go. And so the scalability is definitely there. For profit, I have to give it a 5 because I didn't get any big hits and I barely broke even. I might have even lost a little bit of money. I could have given this a 4, to be honest. If I had dropped 1 apothecary, I think I probably would have given it a 6 or maybe even a 6.5 or 7. If I dropped 2 or something, then maybe it'd go a little bit higher than that. But this wasn't an insane make a ton of currency really fast type strategy. This was effectively like a true gamble. And I know people who essentially were out and going and dropped apothecaries. And so more than in previous leagues, it didn't seem like I was grinding towards the eventual big hit. It felt like I was just gambling currency. And I got lucky to break even, but this did not seem like a good profit strategy for a mid-range mapper like myself. And then for efficiency, I'm going to give it a 5 as well, because I had actually a lot of trouble buying the stuff in bulk. I found that a lot of the guys, when I would message them, even if their post was only a minute or 2 old, they'd already sold what they had, so there was high demand, so it was taking longer to buy the stuff. And then you're having to deal with buying 3 or 4 different things in bulk. And so often I'm having to message, again, 3 or 4 different people, and then when you add all of that up, it was a lot of extra time before I could actually map. And more than once, I remember sitting there and thinking, in the time that I had just spent buying all these mats, you know, to roll up another set of maps, if I had just been doing the harvest strat that I was doing in the last video, I would have just made like 3 or 4 div. And so that's where we're at. And the average here is a 6, which I think is the lowest score I've ever given to a strat. I just did not enjoy this. I don't recommend it. It seemed really gamblish in a way that hunting for apothecaries in Crimson Temple has not felt to me before. I can't say whether or not they changed the drop rate, but it sure does feel like it to me. In previous leagues, I probably would have had 2 or 3 of them drop by this point, and I haven't seen a single one. And so I'm going to be moving on to a different type of strategy for sure. I'm not going to just keep smashing my head into the Crimson Prison, and if you're a mid-range mapper like myself, I recommend that you don't do so either. And that is basically all I've got for you guys today. I'm really excited about the next strategy that I'm going to go over. I've had a lot of fun the last day or 2 as I've switched over, and so I'll look forward to bringing that to you. If you found anything interesting or engaging in the video, please do give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I appreciate you.